Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. I am so grateful to you for being here. I hope that you're going to really enjoy today's episode. It's going to be a nice one to listen to, I think. And I'd be curious to know at the end if any of you can see or hear yourself in what I'm about to share with you. I want to welcome all of the new subscribers. Hello, if we haven't met yet. I used to work as a psychologist. I did that in Australia for over 20 years, working in the medical model until I realized that it no longer aligned with me, and now I work as a counsellor. So I made that big switch. Beautiful private practice, no rebates, loving what I do. And I get to record this podcast twice a week. So they come out every Wednesday and Saturday. So today what I want to do is talk with you a little bit about a reflection that I've had. Some of you will know from a recent episode about the power blackout that we had here. But I want to share with you a reflection on that and just see what you think. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. So do feel free to drop me a line. So let me begin there, and then I want to shift into, this new awareness that I have around that situation. Okay, so I forget how long it was now. I think it was about 4 weeks ago now. I live on the east coast of Victoria, on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula here, and it's everybody's got very big blocks of land, and we have these established trees, these great big conifer trees, great big gum trees. There's kookaburras here, rosellas, lorikeets, foxes, all this beautiful wildlife. We have little starlings and magpies, and it's just a really beautiful area. Anyway, what happened was about 4 weeks ago now, we had one of the worst storms that the peninsula has ever experienced, and the wind was warm, and it's the kind of wind that makes you feel really exhilarated. Like it's my masculine energy coming out now, isn't it? Like that part of me that loves a risk. Like I wanted to be outside in this wind. It was blowing so strongly, and the air was so warm. You just knew something was going to happen. It was very exciting. It was full of anticipation. But what happened was about, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 hours into it. So it took that long to build up all of this momentum. And then it's like the heavens opened up. All this rain started coming down, beating against the roof. I could hear roof tiles moving from the combination of the wind and the rain. And anyway, as I said, it was totally exhilarating, but then not for everybody, but for me it was. And then what happened was, boom, all of a sudden, no power. So it was, scrambling around to get torches and candles, which again, very exciting. But, I really enjoyed being up late at night in the howling wind and all of this rain. And you could hear the wind howling. It was eerie. But as I said, for me, it was kind of exhilarating at the same time because you didn't know what was going to happen next. And anyway, so as you know, I care for my mum. And we were sitting in the lounge room, and we had some torches around us and some candles around us, and we started talking, and we just talked into the night in this dim light, with Gabe, looking after Gabe because, Gabe gets very unsettled. He's my dog, for those of you who don't know. He's a Maltese cross something, little rescue dog. And so we stayed up until sort of the early hours of the morning because we kept getting notices from our energy company that the power would be back on soon. Anyway, didn't come back on. So we set ourselves up with more torches and candles and everything, went to bed. And then in the morning, still no power. Our phones hadn't been charged. So we had a little bit of charge from the day before still in them. So we decided that we were just going to use one phone and save the charge on the other. And we did all of that sort of stuff. And we kept checking on the United Energy website to see when we were going to have our power back. And anyway, long story short, every 4 or 5 hours, they'll keep updating it to say, it'll be on soon, and it never was. Now, this first 24 hours, while I found it very exhilarating the night that it all started, the next day was a bit of a problem because I had work. I know I didn't. It was a Saturday. Anyway, so I knew that I had work to do. There were things that needed to be done for the practice, all of this sort of stuff. And now I started to get a little bit antsy, right? I started to get a little bit restless. All of a sudden, I lost the feeling that isn't this exciting and exhilarating. And it started to become a concern for me professionally, and all of that sort of jazz. Anyway, so the next day, I was not in a fantastic mood. I was starting to get grumpy at the electric company. I knew that the peninsula had been battered, and I knew that there were big trees down everywhere. And I looked out into our front yard. So our front yard is kind of like a big park. We've got weeping willow trees, and we've got, these big gum trees and eucalypt trees, and these really tall conifers that the peninsula is kind of famous for. We have these that they're so high, I couldn't tell you how high they are. And anyway, one had fallen down on our power lines, and we had this live power line that was smoking and sparking on the front lawn. So we were trying we didn't obviously know what to do. Like, it was just scary. So we were trying to get onto United Energy to get that addressed and sorted out. Anyway, we couldn't get onto them. So we had to email them, all this sort of stuff. It was really quite scary to hear it, and to know that there's still rain and there's still wind and all of this. And anyway, so I started to get more grumpy and more irritable because I knew this wasn't going to get fixed anytime soon. So I was like a bear with a sore head that day. The third day, I woke up still getting told the power was going to be restored, but still it wasn't. And this was the day that we had no phone. We didn't have phones. We didn't have any power. We'd started to have to throw out food, all of that sort of jazz. I couldn't go out and get food because the driveway is in the front yard, and that's where the power line was down. So we were kind of stuck. We had some delivery guys, say, we can bring some food and we'll just leave it at the foot of the driveway. But that was very scary. What ended up happening was I went out and I put some of the broken branches over the top of this power line that was down because it was just out of control, and I wanted it to stop flapping around. So I put all these big conifer branches, I put photos of it on Facebook, on top of this power line, which I know I shouldn't have done and everything. But again, it just needed to be done. And you know how you just get in the mood where you're like, right, I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to handle it and it's going to be okay. So that was my state of mind. And anyway, so I secured that, and then we were able to not drive. We still couldn't get down the driveway, but we could walk behind the power line and we could go and pick up take away from the letterbox where the guys would start to leave it. Anyway, it was also on this third day that I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't sit around waiting for somebody else to fix this. So something, I want to say snapped, but it wasn't snapping. Something sort of clicked within me, and I just knew I wasn't going to be a victim to this not having power business. I knew that I was going to do what I could. So I moved from to me consciousness into by me consciousness. And instead of sitting around, waiting for something to happen, I went outside, out the back. So out the back, our garden is not as big as out the front, but it's kind of terraced and, it's still got all these big trees. And I noticed that a lot of stuff had fallen down and branches and this, that and the other. So I spent time, maybe nearly the whole day, just picking up leaves, picking up sticks, dragging branches around to the trailer at the side of the house, all of that sort of stuff. And it was exhausting work. But when I came inside, I felt good. I felt really, 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 really good. And then I sat down for a little while and I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, it's nice to sit down. But then there was something in me that said, no, you need to get outside. So I went back outside and I remember taking my shoes off and just standing there. And I just had my face up to the sun and I was just standing there. And I don't know how long I was there for, but I just felt so connected, I guess. Connected. I just felt like, how this is going to sound so weird, but if you've ever had to carry something above your head, you know how you can get your arms to that position where the thing that you're carrying doesn't weigh anything? You know how you can adjust your arms and all of a sudden that heavy thing that you're holding on to, you got your center of gravity and it doesn't weigh anything. That feeling of this is weightless. That's how I felt. I felt like I was, totally aligned. I just aligned with, the sky and aligned with, the moon in the sky because I could see that. And I felt, grounded and not scattered and not grumpy or anything like that. And I just knew in that moment that I was right where I needed to be. And I know it sounds weird and it might look strange if anybody was looking at me in the backyard because I was just standing there. But I felt so like time didn't exist. I just was unaware of life. I was just there. Soaking it all in is probably the best way I can describe it. I wasn't aware of anything else. I wasn't aware of the dog barking in the background. I wasn't aware of the birds chirping or the kookaburras laughing. I was just just in this place of feeling, so this was exactly where I needed to be. Anyway, what happened later that day was, so we didn't have the short version of this story is we didn't have power for 8 days. But it was fine during the day because I started realizing my body and my spirit were saying, get outside, do something, get outside, move, all of this sort of stuff. I wanted to move. I wanted to sweep. I wanted to make it nice. I wanted to touch the bark on the trees that were still standing. I wanted to give thanks to the trees that had fallen over. I wanted to sit and feel and soak up the earth beneath me and the sky above me. And I just felt so good. Anyway, so this went on and on and on. And in the evenings, of course, you can't do that sort of stuff. And we had limited light and all that. But I taught my mother how to play Uno. And this was really, really nice because it meant that we could play Uno by the torchlight. And the beautiful thing about it was not so much she learned or, how to play a game with me. It was that the game became a vehicle to us having deeper conversations and a deeper connection. And I realized that we don't do that enough, her and I. And I realized that, I said to her, have you noticed or have you experienced too that at nighttime now, when we're playing these games, we're having these different conversations? And she hadn't realized that until I mentioned it. And she said to me, but we talk all the time. And I said, yeah, we do, but not like this. And normally what happens is, in an evening after dinner, we'll sit down and we'll watch a little movie together or something like that. And we have these 2 brown leather, big, lazy boy sort of recliner chairs. We've had them for eons. I just love them so much. Like the leather is so soft now. I know they probably need to be restuffed or something, but I just love them. But anyway, they're parallel, and we've just got this little coffee table either side of us for, our refreshments and snacks and all of that. And we watch TV side by side, and we talk side by side. But when we didn't have the power, we were talking to each other, with each other, looking at each other, in each other's. It was just so different. Anyway, what I noticed was that I adapted really well to this new way of living. And when our power came on quite unexpectedly on day 8, it was so surreal for me to observe within myself that I felt almost disappointed. I felt like loss. I felt like this time has gone now. Like this time's gone. I've just had it, and where did it go? And now I was upset because I was feeling that time had been taken away from me. And I didn't really cognitively get why I was so upset, but my body was saying, no, you don't want to go back to work now. You don't want to go back to spending time on the computer and the television and the podcasts and this and that and the other. Like, no, you So then I had to kind of adapt, and it was really hard because, after you've lived a certain way, and I know it was only just over a week, but that was all it took for me to adapt to this new way of living. Anyway, of course, it didn't take long for me to revert to the old way of living, and that was all fine. But looking back, because, you can't always reflect when you're in it, can you? But looking back, I can absolutely see what was going on. I think what was happening was, I get through life by thinking, how has this happened for me? Yep, how has this happened for me? And at the time, I couldn't see how a disruption to my work, how, upsetting people who had appointments booked, all that sort of stuff, or ego was in my mind, was on my mind, sorry. I couldn't see at the time how this was working for me. Now, what I know is the universe, I believe, was kind of saying to me, do you know what? You've been in your masculine for so long now. You've been doing all of the things, because I have. I'm in like 2 masterminds. I have my own coaching. I just joined this new thing about women and finances, because I want to help my women that I work with understand money differently from a more spiritual perspective, but also in a way, the way that men work with money and see money and all of that is very different to what women need and want, and how they view money and everything. So I want to try and learn more about that so I can help women with it, but it's requiring me myself to learn new strategies, to be implementing my new strategies. I've got spreadsheets galore, I've got pie charts and graphs and line graphs and everything galore. So I think this experience of not having the power was, the universe saying to me, just stop. Like, I've given you so many opportunities to just stop this. You need to reconnect with the mother. Okay. And it's when I had this reflection, it was like this big aha moment, even though it was like 3 or 4 weeks later. But the mother archetype, and, Jung was the one who spoke about in-depth psychology and in soul psychology. He was the one that coined the term archetype and described what they were. But an archetype is a universal symbol. Yeah. And archetypes, because they're so open to subjective interpretation, have so many different meanings. But across the world and across cultures, because they're not language-based, often we see commonalities in terms of how we interpret these archetypes, okay? So I guess at its very, if you're new to archetypes, the first thing that we think of when we think of the mother archetype is we think of women in real life, don't we? We think about our own mother, maybe her mother or our grandmother, our aunties, our stepmothers, our mothers-in-law. But the mother is someone who is a woman that you have some sort of relationship with. So it doesn't need to be kinship based. It could be, if you had a babysitter, that they would be adopting the mother archetype. A teacher may adopt a mother archetype. A kindy educator may adopt a mother archetype. A nurse may adopt a mother archetype, right? And I'm just talking about this in the very figurative sense, okay? And of course, in different forms of spirituality around the world, we have archetypes of the mother in the church. We have the Mother Mary, we have mothers in Egypt, mother archetypes in Egyptian spirituality and mystery schools. We have the mother of Christ, Sophia, or all of this sort of symbolism when it comes to spirituality. Okay. But the other thing too is that the mother archetype is feminine energy. It's that divine, sacred, feminine energy. So it often is associated with people, places, or things that represent fertility and fruitfulness. So think about things. For me, I'm just going to relate it to my experience at home during this power outage. For me, that mother archetype was being in the garden. Yeah, being connected with the garden. We have, when we think about fertility and fruitfulness and, all of those sorts of abundance in the garden, there were many trees in my garden that were fine, that I was able to go and tend to, weed around, strip bark that needed stripping, appreciate the blossoms that were coming out on my lemon trees, see the rosebuds start to open up over those 8 days. The mother archetype can also be attached to things that are associated with water. Okay, so anything like a lake, a river, a shower, a bath, a spa, a swimming pool, rain, the ocean, the beach, anything like that, because it's always moving. Yeah, it's always moving. And, in symbolism, when we're thinking about the mother archetype, the magic circle, as it's called in Indian spirituality, is called a mandala in Buddhism and recognized around the world as being a mother archetype for spiritual protection. Okay. Hollow objects also represent the Divine Mother. So hollow objects that I would see when I was tidying up the garden and I was being outside was I could see where a tree had been uprooted and I could see the great big divot in the ground. But the reason that hollow archetypes are associated with the mother is because of the body of the mother, the physical body of the mother with the womb and the uterus, okay? So anything that's hollow like that is associated with receiving or being filled up or being filled in. So we see this in, a very basic sexuality, don't we? The woman receives. We see it in so many stories and fables. It's the woman receiving. It's the energy of receiving. We know that when we're caught up in the masculine and we're doing all of the things, we don't see the results. We don't see the referrals. We don't see the engagement on our posts. We don't see the click-through rates. But it's when we start to connect with that divine feminine, we get into the space of expansion, of allowing, of cultivating, of nurturing, and of receiving. And so that's why hollow objects are often associated with the Divine Mother feminine energy. Okay. So I think that was what was happening for me. Without even realizing it, I think the universe had just thrust me into the space of the mother, and without my ego mind knowing this was what was happening and this was what I was wanting and needing, my soul was feeling filled up. In a way, I think it's like maybe I was the empty vessel, and maybe I needed that sense of nourishment, and maybe I needed renewal. Maybe I needed nurturing, and the way that I received that nurturing was to nurture the Mother Earth. Do you see what I mean? And anyway, what happened as a result of that was, as you know, at the start of this power outage, I was in fear mindset. I was very afraid of my clients who had appointments getting mad at me because I had no way of contacting them. I mean, we ended up borrowing, neighbour had a little power pack. And so where the 4 fences intersected, we're all sharing that one power pack. But we couldn't do that every day. So I had to copy and paste the same message very, very quickly, so I didn't waste the charge on the power pack so the next neighbour could use it. But I was in that fear state initially. But the mother archetype is all about sustaining what you've created and allowing things to bloom in their own right, in their own time. And the mother energy is around trusting that you're fully supported. And, you know, when I was able to wrap my head around that, I was able then to connect in with the energy of my clients, and I was able to find reassurance and find nurturing in understanding that I already work with my perfect for me clients, and that my perfect for me clients will probably be concerned for me, worried about me, will probably express that, and they'll probably be relieved to know that I'm okay when I come back, but they're not going to be angry and mad and all of those things that my ego mind was telling me. Yep. So, I think I touched on it before. When I was outside in the backyard, I could see the moon all the time, but I couldn't always see the sun because, what was going on with the weather. It was very, very cloudy. But I could always see the moon. And it's interesting because the moon represents that divine feminine energy. The moon is there 24/7, 24/7. It's a very calming influence, whereas the sun is always very hot, very fiery, and it's there for about half a day and then it disappears. The moon goes through different phases, and each phase of the moon has a different energy that's associated with it. One energy is more about taking aligned action. Another energy is more about nourishing and stepping back. Another energy of the phase of the moon is around connecting intuitively with what you need at that particular time. I love working with the moon so much that I wrote a program called Moonworks, which if you want, you can go and look on the website and you see some more information about it there. But it's really important for women especially, because they're energetically more connected with the moon usually than the sun. It's really important to learn how to harness your energy in alignment with the different phases of the moon. But anyway, you might be wondering, well, that all sounds really great for you, and I'm glad that you had this very fulfilling experience and this time of connection. How do I do that? So you need to understand, first of all, that your mother archetype, your mother energy knows that your body is the earth's body. Remember, we spoke about the 4 levels of consciousness and how there isn't any separation. We're all energy, we're all the same. We just look a little bit different. So first of all, we understand that, the mother archetype knows that your body is also the earth's body, okay? And some simple ways. The first way to connect with the mother energy, so that you can receive more, so that you can be filled up, instead of depleted and tired and exhausted, the first thing is to slow down and really employ some kind of gratitude practice, because doing a gratitude practice, even if it's just saying in your mind 3 things you're grateful for today, brings you into the present and allows you to connect with joy. And when you do that, you raise your vibration, you raise your frequency, and you become a better match for the types of things that you want to call in for your practice, whether it's new opportunities or better visibility or more confidence or whatever, but you can receive that then. Okay. Something else that's really helpful to do is to connect. And this means connecting with friends, taking time to prepare for a connection. Now, this can be in person or it could be online, but preparing to spend time with friends might mean dressing in a way that makes you feel radiant. It might mean preparing some food that's just delicious that you only eat with your friends at that time. It's not worrying about making things perfect or instead of anything like that at all. It's just allowing yourself to really indulge in the pleasure of those relationships, in the pleasure of the food, in the pleasure of the wine, all of those sorts of things. Okay. Something else is to really, if you haven't done it for a little while, reconnect with anything that you have in your life, like a ritual or a ceremony or a tradition. Something that I can share with you that I use in my practice as a ritual is before I have a call with a client, I will always do a heart-centered visualization where I connect my heart with love to the heart of my client with love. I've shared with you that I do that before. Another thing that I do is I can draw a card and I can ask for guidance around, what will this client need today, for him or herself. Okay. Something else is to, be really helpful, like get into service. And this is really important. When you feel like you're stuck in the practice, the masculine energy gets unstuck by making plans, right? Or if you're feeling overwhelmed in your practice, the masculine energy fixes that by saying, well, we're going to make a plan and we'll implement it. That's how you get your wheels to stop spinning. But the feminine energy says, well, do you know what? We're just going to step back from our stuff and we're going to go and help other people, right? So that can be reaching out to past clients and checking in on them, seeing if they're okay, seeing if they need a new appointment, something like that. It can be jumping into different groups, not with any motivation to sign people up or book calls, but just to be present and to listen and to help and just be there, right? Another thing that you can do to connect with the mother is move. So certainly wearing clothes that don't feel restrictive, that feel really comfortable, that, it can be, your sweatpants and a tracksuit top, that's fine. It doesn't always have to be the floaty dress. We're not all hippies, but certainly putting on something that feels comfortable for you and moving. So moving can be dancing in your room to your favorite playlist. It could be just walking around the garden mindfully and trying to find 10 different types of leaves, or standing or sitting in the backyard with bare feet until you've heard the sound of 5 different things. Do you know what I mean? But start moving. Get up from the desk. Make something. If you want to be creative, make something. So at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm all over Instagram and Pinterest looking for videos on how to wrap presents, and I am loving it. I'll show you some of my amazing gift wrapping. I've got all these videos and I've gone and bought all my supplies, and I'm going to do all this fancy gift wrapping on the weekend, and I can't remember the last time I was so excited to wrap a present. But that's me nourishing that sort of creative side, disconnecting from the practice and just sitting down for a few hours with a hot glue gun and my hessian and, my pine cones and I know what you're probably thinking. It doesn't have to be like that for you. You might want to do something else creative. Maybe it's music, maybe it's singing, maybe it's writing in your journal, maybe it's, preparing the Christmas pudding so it's ready for Christmas. I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe it's decorating the tree. But do something that beautifies the space, that makes you want to be in the space, even if that's buying a candle next time you go to the supermarket that you can put in the bathroom and creating a ritual where you light this candle before you get in the bath. You know what I mean? So anyway, there's some ways that you can connect with the mother archetype. So if you're finding that you are getting exhausted, it's moving toward the end of the year. If you find that you're doing a lot of things, but you're not really seeing much traction, instead of jumping in groups and asking for what more things you can add to your list, I think this is a time for you to recognize that maybe your energy could be out of alignment. You could be in that dominant, I'm going to say wounded masculine, because it's sort of coming from this space of desperation, perhaps almost burning out, feeling so tired, but having scarcity mindset and fear mindset. This is a sign to step out of that, let that go, even if it's just for an afternoon, and fill yourself up. Doesn't matter if you're how you identify, whether you identify as male or female or, masculine or feminine or anything. We all have all of these energies in us. So learning how to balance them will open the door to you receiving more in your private practice. So here's your homework. I want you to, really think about brain dumping here, a list of as many things as you can think of. It doesn't matter how far-fetched or ridiculous they might seem, but really do a brain dump now of how many things, or all of the ways. How many ways can I fill my cup? Right? That's the prompt. How many ways can I fill my cup? Now, this is such an important thing, especially for people who are new to private practice and are struggling a little bit. So it doesn't matter if you're at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 of private practice. You will all move through this imbalance of energy at some time. And that's where things like supervision and mentoring and coaching can be super helpful. And as you know, I provide all of those things. I have 2 coaching places available in December. So if you're interested in that, please contact me and let me know so that we can have a conversation together and see whether or not, I'm able to help you in the way that your practice needs. We'll do a mini assessment on the phone together. I'll ask you a bunch of questions. And do you know what? If I can work with you and support you, I will let you know at the end. And if I can't, I'm not going to waste your time. But what I can do is connect you perhaps with somebody who may be a better match or a better fit. Okay, so that's my promise to you. But yes, I look forward to hearing your reflections on this episode of the podcast. If you like, also head over to YouTube. It's just Brooklyn Storme, and subscribe there. 2 videos go up every single week. And thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.